Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum weekly talk show. My name is Kafumba. I will be your host. Tonight we have the extreme privilege of hosting some of the best legal minds of Liberia, all of whom will briefly introduce themselves, perhaps including their background, little comments about their background before we begin, before we take on the issue of dual citizenship that they've come to discuss. We understand that Cllr Jalloh and others recently brought a lawsuit, perhaps not so recently, but did bring a lawsuit against the government of Liberia concerning the automatic loss of citizenship in Liberia in connection with dual citizenship. That's what we've come to talk about tonight, and obviously there's so many of you here, so I'm assuming we are all on the same page. Now, sadly, I want to know Cllr Jalloh. I don't know the other gentleman who will be speaking with him. So I will turn the floor over to him so he can begin his introductory remark. And also, I'll look forward to him, to have him tell me who has lines need to be open in support of his discussion tonight. Mr. Jalloh, thank you for coming on the show. The floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you for the kind words, Brother Kroma. And good evening, afternoon, or good morning to my fellow Liberians that are taking the time to be on this line. As the national anthem play, almost at the end there, we heard this glorious land of liberty, glorious land of liberty by God's command. I think it's almost fits in appropriately with what we are about to talk about tonight, something that has to do with fundamental and constitutional freedom. There have been a lot of talks lately about a law which purports to automatically deprive certain Liberians of citizenship. Passed by the National Legislature in 1973, this law purports to deprive a person of his or her citizenship without due process of law when that Liberian serve in or fight alongside a foreign military force without prior approval from the then sitting president of Liberia, or if that Liberian obtains the citizenship of another country through naturalization or votes in a foreign election, he or she is said, pursuant to this 1973 Act of the Legislature, to have automatically lost his or her citizenship. As most of you, or probably all of you, are aware, the 1847 Constitution of Liberia was suspended on April 12, 1980 by the PRC government. And with the Constitution being the highest law of the land, once the Constitution was suspended, every law made pursuant to or under that Constitution was also automatically suspended. And during the course of that suspension, there was Liberia was governed primarily by a number of Decree 88. In 1986, January 1986, to be exact, January 6, 1986, the new Constitution of Liberia came into force. There are several provisions in the new Constitution that wasn't available in the old Constitution. For a long time in Liberian history, it was believed that there were a number of Liberians that had foreign citizenship. It was almost like a don't ask, don't tell policy issue. A lot of people did not talk about it. However, during the presidential and legislative elections in 2005, there are some Liberians, primarily those that came from the West, were questioned on the issue of citizenship. One of the most famous cases came about from Mr. Lucini Donso, who, during his Senate confirmation hearing, told the senators that he did, in fact, have American citizenship. And since then, there were also a number of presidential candidates who were also alleged to have had foreign citizenship. So we saw some of those talks taking place, and we first view it not only from an unconstitutional standpoint, but we thought that it was bad for a country recovering from so much devastation, 14 years of civil war, to bring about, to resurrect a law that was suspended in 1980, and that remains question as to whether that law was revived under the new Constitution, to use it as a weapon to go after a particular number of Liberians. So we started to communicate with some of our friends, our leaders in Liberia, to see how that issue could be addressed. On July 12, 2010, I, acting to my attorney in Liberia, filed a lawsuit with the Supreme Court of Liberia challenging this very 1973 law under the Alien Nationality Law as unconstitutional on several grounds, primarily as in violation of due process of law. There was oral argument in this case on January the 11th of 2011. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments from the party. However, we did not receive a decision in a case. And under the rules, we have to ask for a new oral argument assignment. At the time the court heard the case, there were four persons on the court at that time. As we speak, the court is fully staffed to 4 members. So I think I would stop there for now, and then that's just a background of what happened, where we are. I'm expecting on this line today, at a minimum, Councilor Edward Nouvelle and also Charles Swambi. And I assume if there is a need for them to chime in, they should be able to speak up, or at least send me a text.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I was just about to ask you that there is possible the people you expect to be on this line, it's very possible that they could be here. There are quite a good number of people here, but I don't know who they are, and so I don't know their numbers to open their lines. But what I will say rather is that our question lines are open now already. So if you are one of those who's supposed to be speaking up, by all means, please dial *61. Even if you're not, anybody, if you have any question, comment, or concern, you just heard Councilor Jalloh giving us the basis for his lawsuit, and also, discussing dual citizenship considerably. So if you have any question, comment, or concern, especially so if you are one of those who's supposed to be speaking along with Councilor Jalloh, by all means, please dial *61 on your phone, and I will open up your line and add you to that list as one of our guests. So thank you. *61 is what you need. I do have a number in here already, someone who has a question. But before I take my first question, Councilor Jalloh, I'd like to begin by making a reference to a remark that was made recently, I think actually just last week, Sunday, when we hosted Minister of State with our portfolio, Honorable Community B. who said, when the issue of dual citizenship was raised, he was very hopeful. He said he was hopeful that bill would pass sometime. He can't say when, but he thinks it's going to go through. But one thing he did say, I want to know if you agree with that assertion. He said that he believed that the name dual citizenship has been too polluted. And so to say dual citizenship suggests too, the way he looked at it, and it's not going to be easy to sell that particular name to Liberian people now. He happened to believe that this need to educate Liberians at home about the need for their brothers and sisters to remain Liberian. He didn't even say to become Liberian. He said to remain Liberian. But in order to do so, he said we needed to find a different name, maybe a name such as maintaining your citizenship and not two citizenship, which the word dual implied. He said you got people struggling in Liberia who are not benefiting from their one citizenship. And if you tell them we're going to bring somebody who got two of it, one somewhere else and the Liberian one, he thinks there's been too much politics involved, and that need out to be, play with a little bit in order to suit the current realities of the day in Liberia. Do you agree with that assertion? Do we need to change the dual citizenship name to something else, or would it seem go in mind, Councilor?
Well, I definitely agree. With the minister, he comes with a wealth of knowledge. If I may add this, there come a time, in our lives, I believe, as men and women, when we should stand up, for what we believe is right. In spite of all the terrible things that have happened in our country, the individual rights that are listed in the Liberian Constitution, respectfully, do not belong to the government of Liberia, nor are they the exclusive rights of any particular group or individual. These are rights that belong to you, myself, everyone else on this line, including every other Liberian. So I think, to address the minister comment, this law in question, this 1973 Act, just doesn't talk about Liberians who become naturalized citizens of Western countries. It also covers Liberians who are citizens of African country through naturalization. It also covers Liberians who serve in foreign military or align themselves with foreign leaders without prior approval from the president of Liberia. Let me touch on that particular one. If you left this law in place, if you didn't question this law, or if the court, if there weren't a judicial process to challenge this law, it lends itself for abuse. What stops this administration or future administration from coming to say, you know what, all of those people who we believe went to Libya and received military training in Libya without authorization of President DAUL, or fought alongside the forces of Laurent Gbagbo in the Ivory Coast in a recent war they had a few years ago, and other places, all of those Liberians have automatically lost their citizenship. Liberians who have all the citizenship will probably be okay if that were the case. The sky wouldn't fall for them. But if you go after those people that you accuse of doing military training or align themselves with leaders, they have lost their citizenship. You have left those people stateless. If you go after the other provision in the law that says that if you vote in a foreign election, I can tell you in my practice I have represented at least one Liberian in the United States who have inadvertently voted in an election that he or she shouldn't have voted in. So if you enforce that law without question, those Liberians will be left stateless. So perhaps, a way to go around this is to say, look, we're going to move that this law be repealed because we believe it is unconstitutional, unfair, whatever you want to call it. Then it doesn't address the issue of dual citizenship. It simply says that based on a number of reasons, including a possible thing of unconstitutionality, we're going to repeal this law and say that anyone who may have lost his or her citizenship under this law is automatically restored back to that day. And I think that's one way you can find a soft landing ground. If I may also, you also have the good senator on this program about 2 weeks ago. I called in and I listened to it, and I know the senator talked about a number of ways that you could find soft landing. I think that for future's reference, based on personal experience, the senator understands the importance of due process. He understands what it is to be accused of something and to have your day in court. So if the automatic loss aspect, I think, is focused on, that might be something that he could, he might buy into as well. I would stop there for now.
Okay, thank you. Folks, if you're just joining us, once again, welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum weekly talk show. We have with us Cllr Jalloh talking about dual citizenship in Liberia. As many of you know, he's been a legal advocate for Liberians in the diaspora against trying to undo the automatic loss of citizenship in Liberia. If you have any question, comment, or concern, please dial *61. We will entertain your question here. And Cllr Jalloh do expect additional speakers. There's supposed to be other lawyers on here. Certainly a lot of you have called in, so if you are one of those counselors who's supposed to be speaking on the scene, subject along with Cllr Jalloh, by all means, please dial *61 as well. Before I take my first caller for the night, Cllr Jalloh, I'm still curious. So, hypothetically speaking, let's assume the Liberians who fought along Laurent Gbagbo in Ivory Coast, or Liberians who fought in any foreign war for that matter, and they came back to Liberia after those wars ended. And if those Liberians were to lose their citizenship simply because they fought in Ivory Coast or Libya, say if the Liberian government decided today that those Liberians have ceased to become Liberians, so then what would the Liberian government do? Where do you deport them? What would the Liberian government do to them?
That's a good question. That's a good question, and that's probably something that the political branches of our government should start thinking about, because there are a number of Liberians with other citizenship that'll be okay, but those now, if I'm in a group of one of those Liberians that you just talked about, I would obviously file a legal challenge. I would obviously file a legal challenge, and then the whole issue about due process comes into play. But from what we have heard, if some people are saying that those people don't even have the ability to even challenge that, because it's possible that a person could be lied on. It's possible someone could say, look, I saw this person in Ivory Coast. I saw this person in La Côte d'Ivoire and other places. But if what we're hearing, this scary thing, this slippery slope that someone trying to take us on, that no, that person should not even have the ability to ask a competent court in Liberia to even review the validity or veracity of the government's allegation, then it lends itself to abuse. So first, you really can't deport a citizen. So if that person is not a citizen, and you cannot, you probably have to pay a third country to try to take them in, but they're not citizens of any other country, presumably. So I don't know where the government will be able to send them to.
Okay. Well, I'll take my first question here. Folks, there are a good number of you here, and I keep saying that this is your show. I believe all of us here, if you are in the diaspora, the issue of dual citizenship affects you one way or the other. Even if you have not taken up a foreign citizenship yet, but the fact that you have family members, friends who have, it does affect you in one or some way. So this is an interactive dialogue. If you have any question, comment, or concern, please dial *61 so that we can engage Councillor Jalloh while we have it. It's a very busy man. We don't have this chance often. So we'll take the first caller for the night, 2696, 2696. No name. Would you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Councillor Jalloh, 2696.
This is Sekou Keita, originally from Staten Island, New York.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, good evening to all. All praises are due to the Almighty Allah. Councillor Teage, again, this is Sekou Keita. I think you know me well. From Staten Island, New York. We frequently met in Philadelphia. We have mutual friends, whatever the case might be. And I'm absolutely glad to have you on this line with like-minded individuals fighting to undo the injustices that have been done to certain Liberians because of obtaining another country's citizenship. With that being said, have a group that affected, I would say, the various forms of dual citizenship. For example, there are individuals who obtain their dual citizenship or their citizenship in another country before the 1990 Civil War. There are so many criteria that are involved in this dual citizenship process. I'm just wondering, are you guys putting everything together in the same pot, or are you fighting for specific categories?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Keita.
Thank you, Brother Keita, for that question. I have families from Louisiana, Liberia, and I can tell you from a personal knowledge that some of those families acquired their foreign citizenship before 1973. They actually acquired birth citizenship in the United States. Laws in this dual citizenship debate is that group of people are not talked about, because the alien and nationality law only talks about you getting the foreign citizenship through naturalization. It doesn't say anything about birth. Now, Article 28 of this 1986 Constitution does make mention about certain Liberians who acquire foreign citizenship by virtue of one parent being a citizen of another country. Unfortunately, in our country, we like to cherry pick No one talks about that group of Liberians. No one also talks about the fact that you have Africans, fellow Africans from neighboring countries coming over to Liberia and becoming naturalized citizens. Once a person becomes a naturalized, for example, about a month ago we had the government announced that, there was a waiting period in Liberia, generally about 2 years or so before you can apply to become a citizen of Liberia. But the president has the authority to waive the waiting period, and you can become a citizen within 1 day of arriving in Liberia. We are told that the President Sirleaf has granted a waiver to about 600 Sierra Leoneans to go through the naturalization process. Sierra Leone allows dual citizenship. It doesn't put any restriction on it. So from the moment those Sierra Leoneans become naturalized Liberians, no matter what Liberia law says, Sierra Leone, would do nothing to take away the citizenship of those new naturalized Liberians. So, in effect, those individuals will be able to exercise dual citizenship when they get back to Sierra Leone. But you now, a Liberian, Brother Kita, whose Street is buried in Liberia, your government is telling you that if you were to go to Sierra Leone and do the same thing that a Sierra Leonean comes to Liberia and do as far as naturalization is concerned, they would take your citizenship away from you. So there is inherent fairness in this law, even if you were to assume that it can pass constitutional muster. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. We'll take the next caller. 6929, 6929. Would you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Councillor Jalloh? 6929. Hello? 6929? 267. All right, we'll close that line. Check him up later. 6646, 6646. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Councillor Jalloh.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Mohammed Kamara, and I'm calling from Dallas, Texas. And Councillor Teage, thank you for coming to the show to talk about the dual citizenship and the lawsuit is taken against the Liberian government. But my question, though, is this. First, I'm not an official of the Liberian government, and my question is also not intended to defend the Liberian government, but in your opening remarks, I don't know if I got it or not, but you really did not come out with the merits of this lawsuit. The merit of this lawsuit against the Liberian government on the dual, for stripping away Liberians that have dual citizenship. I know you did make reference of the 388, which automatically suspended the Constitution of Liberia in 1980 when the military took over. But if you can you actually go over the merit or merits of this lawsuit?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
No. Absolutely. Even though I believe that under the existing Constitution, even though I believe that the government does not have the power to deprive any natural-born Liberian of his or her citizenship, that the only provision that provides for loss of citizenship under this new Constitution refers to a Liberian who at birth acquires another citizenship by virtue of one parent being a citizen of the other country. Even though I believe that, I am challenging this 1973 law. And one of the key flaws with this law is that it calls for loss of citizenship automatically, summarily, without due process of law. Let me give you a little history about due process. Let me back up. One of the earliest examples of due process happened in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. There we're told that God told Adam and Eve that they could eat from almost every tree in the garden, but a particular tree that they were forbidden from eating from the tree of good, of knowledge and evil. God said, do not eat from the tree. Now, we know God is all-knowing, so God knew when Adam and Eve had eaten from that forbidden tree. What did God do? God didn't just come and summarily started punishing them. We're told that he gave them an opportunity to explain. God said, Adam, have you eaten from the tree? He gave him an opportunity. Adam said, yes, I ate from the tree, but that a woman made me eat it. So after that, then God needed our punishment. In Liberia, long before this 1986 Constitution came into force, there was a case called Willow v. Willow in 1973. In that case, a Liberian man, a lawyer, well-connected, had sought a divorce from his wife. But rather than go through the court system that would have allowed her an opportunity to defend herself, he went and met up with some of his friends in the Liberian legislature that granted him a divorce from his wife. And she filed a lawsuit that made it all the way up to the Supreme Court, challenging the validity of that divorce. And in that case, the Liberian Supreme Court, in short, said that a law must hear before it condemns. And in order for a law to hear before it condemns, it cannot be automatic. There have to be process. You have to give a person notice because there's a possibility someone could be lied on, or there's a possibility. Due process doesn't mean you're going to win a lawsuit. It's just that you should be given the opportunity to at least explain your side. That decision was rendered 76 years ago. Almost every first-year law student in Liberia can recite that decision in his or her sleep. But lo and behold, perhaps the Liberian vote, I wasn't old enough to vote for the 1986 Constitution, but my parents and all the Liberian adults did. And perhaps they foresaw the day when a hot-button issue like automatic loss of citizenship, was going to come about. Perhaps the framer of that Constitution saw it. So, knowing the fickleness of men and sometimes women, they elevated that Wulu v. Wulu decision into the Liberian Constitution in Article 28. And that Constitution, and that clause in short says, no person, not only citizen, but no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, property, privilege, or any other right, except as the outcome of a hearing that is consistent with due process of law. Now, one doesn't have to be a great expert to know that a law that calls for automatic loss of citizenship cannot even begin to satisfy the first requirement of that clause, that there must be a hearing. So in short, we're challenging this law, saying that it is constitutionally flawed. Procedurally, it is flawed. We don't even get into the merits of whether someone it is right or it is wrong or not for a person to get a foreign citizenship, whether it is wrong for a person to serve in a foreign military or voting. We don't even get to that. So we're challenging this law that is unconstitutional on its face. And if this law is unconstitutional on its face, you would never get to the point where you can question what someone has allegedly done in a foreign country. Brother Muhammad.
Thank you. We'll keep taking questions here. Let me see if this guy's 6929. I'm giving you the last chance here. 6929. Would you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question, concern, or comment for Councillor Jalloh? 6929.
How are you doing, Councillor?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
Would you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question, sir?
Yeah, my name is Clarence Gono. I live in Philadelphia. I'm very interested in this argument about this dual citizenship case that's going on. But recently I studied educational law, and I covered a lot of topics in law. I said, but those guys are studying this thing. They're talking this thing online every time. There are certain things that we should ask them. For instance, in this law thing, it's something that they call capacity. And then when I look at you guys talking about going to court, the question that I ask myself, and I want to ask you now, is, do you have the capacity to do so? And capacity, as in law terms, is that do you have the right? It's a right to really sue the Liberian government. Okay, and looking at that too, there's something constitutional law. On what basis are you making your argument? Because whether the argument is based on constitutional law or case law or customary law, on what basis of these three? On which one is very, very, very based on of the three?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gono.
Thank you.
Councilor
When Brother Gono speaks about capacity, he's talking about a legal term in law that is called you must have legal standing. Simply means that in order for you to have the ability to sue, you should show that there is some personal injury that has occurred or is likely to occur if this law is enforced or this government action is taken against you. So I would respectfully submit, Brother Gonglo, if a person who is alleged to have lost his or her citizenship under this law, that person has every right to challenge it. Now, standing doesn't necessarily mean that person is going to win the case. It simply said, look, does that person have the ability to at least have the court look at the merit or demerits of his or her claim? Yes. So that's what standing is about. So anyone who is said to have automatically lost his or her citizenship has a right, because who enacted this 1973 law? It was the government of Liberia that enacted it. If this law weren't there, then we wouldn't be talking that a person have lost his or her citizenship. So because the government of Liberia have provided a law that says a person loses citizenship based on A, B, C, or D, that person has a right to challenge that law. Secondly, I talk about the constitutional provision, Article 20A, which tells us what due process is. So one of the argument we're making before the court is that this law violates that constitutional due process. There are also other clauses in the Constitution. I'll just talk about one more, Article 27A, that says that if you were a citizen of Liberia before the new Constitution came into force, you shall continue to be a citizen of Liberia. That's one of the clauses that we are using. And secondly, when you talk about statutory rights, there are laws in Liberia that was enacted by the Liberian legislature that also provides that a person is entitled to due process. There are also case law from the Liberian Supreme Court. The most famous one I told you about was the Wulu v. Wulu. That also says that before you deprive a person of any right or privilege, or property or privileges, you've got to give that person due process. So we're going both on case law, constitutional law, and statutory law.
Thank you. Thank you. We will move on. The next caller happens to be 9271, 9271. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Councilor Jalloh. 9271.
Yeah, thank you, Kafumba. Also, to Councilor Jalloh, that's a total from Pittsburgh here.
Welcome, Mr. Todo.
Yeah, and also, again, thank you, Councilor. I just want to get some application, to educate the general public when they hear about their lawsuit and what is in it for them. If I'm wrong, I think the moderator can correct me. A couple of months ago, we have Councilor Jenny, Captain Jenny on a identical show. A similar question was asked about the issue of dual citizenship in Liberia, and he made a comment the Liberian Constitution clearly states on citizenship in Liberia, either you are a citizen or you are not a citizen. And that's why a comment he made. And we have a lawsuit on the floor in the Supreme Court. And Councilor Jenny is a member of the bench. If a statement can come from somebody who is a member of the Supreme Court bench, do you think the lawsuit could be possible?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Todo. Well, do we have a chance, Councilor Jalloh? Do we have a chance, this lawsuit here? What's the possibility, likelihood of this lawsuit doing anything?
Absolutely. We have a chance. First, I want to thank, Brother Todo for that question. And I would just start by saying, what is in the lawsuit for other people? We have a saying, brother, two crab, coffee, drink water. Okay? So if this law, as we're expecting, is stricken down by the Supreme Court, the government will not be able to enforce that law against anybody. It won't just be me as the named petitioner. Anybody that the government would not be able to enforce that law. So through Crab, coffee with drink water. Justice Janan, I believe, spoke vaguely, but he was right. The Constitution says who is a citizen and who is not a citizen. He was prohibited from speaking to the particular merits of this case because it's pending before him. But Justice Janan and all the other justices on the Supreme Court, I believe, took an oath to uphold the Constitution of Liberia, and I believe that they take that oath seriously. Having said that, there are specific things about the lawsuit that I prohibited from saying. But litigants to a lawsuit, those that are involved in a lawsuit, especially the plaintiff, the petitioner, has the ability to frame a lawsuit in a way that doesn't consider other topic. For example, this lawsuit specifically, intentionally, does not ask the court to recognize dual citizenship, doesn't ask the court whether it is wise, because the court have told us throughout the decades that it does not concern itself with whether a law is wise or unwise. Those are questions for the political branches. That the court only legitimate concern is whether the challenged law is constitutional, and we believe, though we believe on that particular question, this law is unconstitutional. So let's take the United States for example. Congress has never passed a law in this country officially recognizing dual citizenship. But the reason why a number of Americans, including our children, are able to have multiple citizenship, it is because there was a 1967 decision that went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. There was a gentleman that went in Israel and voted in an election there. When he applied to renew his American passport, he was told that he had lost American citizenship by virtue of their automatic loss of citizenship law, a law that was almost directly copied from the U.S. That case made it all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court struck the law down, not just on due process ground, but the fact that Congress did not have any specific authority to deprive an American of his or her citizenship. So, and the court only answered the legal question. And the court did not address the political question, and that is what we're asking the Liberian Supreme Court to do. We know that it is rights are being saturated right now in this political debate to make certain Liberians feel that they are not Liberians, but we do not get into that political debate with the court. We're just asking the court, did this 1973 law, even if you accept everything that the government alleges that I have done, did this 1973 law accord me due process of law before it took away citizenship? And we believe if the question remains as that, we should have a real good chance of prevailing in this lawsuit.
Yeah. Thank you. Before I take the next caller, though, there's something that I found a little bit troubling here, Councillor. Senator Groupie, Senator Joel Howard Taylor, eminent Emmanuel Wati, ULA, Dual Citizenship Committee Chair, all Liberian organizations around the globe are all fighting to see dual citizenship bill pass in the House, both the House and the Senate. And here you are arguing, making a legal argument that the law that opposes dual citizenship is illegal to begin with. Now, obviously, it's clear that the goal is the same. If the bill passes in the House and the Senate, that will allow dual citizenship. And if you succeed in kicking out the law that opposes dual citizenship, and then dual citizenship will be allowed. But though the end goal is the same, but the way it looks, don't you find it troubling? On one hand, you got one group of Liberians, perhaps majority in this case, in fighting, running behind the House, the Senate, the senators and lawmakers to pass the bill. And here you are, the court saying that the law itself is not even legal. So which one should we exert our effort on more? What if how the House passes dual citizenship bill today, would that make it legal then? Will you stop your lawsuit?
I would, stop the lawsuit if that dual citizenship bill does not make any Liberian a second-class citizen. This lawsuit, I believe, would ensure that no one bargains away anybody's constitutional right. But let me put it this way, Brother Wetty, and other Liberians that have worked so hard, or that are working hard in this political process, it's good. I'm not going to discourage it. We have worked together, and I assume we will continue to work together, because even after this lawsuit is won, is decided, there will still be a need to have the legislature bring our current citizenship law into compliance with our reality. And assuming that we do win, they may want to bring our citizenship law into compliance with the court's decision. But you know what? Let's be very, very careful here. Do not allow other people to define this debate. We can't be so hot for dual citizenship that we ignore the very Constitution that we're trying to uphold. That we know dual citizenship simply means that the government recognizes that you are a Liberian and is recognizing that you have the ability to acquire a foreign citizenship. That's my layperson definition of it. But let me just put it this way. There is a reason why we have three branches of government. The judiciary is the only branch of government that theoretically is meant to be apolitical, that is supposed to follow the law and the facts of a given case, regardless of what public opinion says, and it's supposed to render its decision on that. We know that the issue of political talk about dual citizenship isn't popular, but I also suspect that there was a time when the TRC recommendations named certain group of Liberians that said that they should be barred from holding public offices for 30 years. I can almost bet that if you have put that to a vote, a national referendum, majority of Liberians would have agreed that they should not serve for 30 years. What did those Liberians do? Some of the people they named, they decided that they were not going to bargain away their constitutional right. They ran to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rendered its decision based on the fact and the law. And we can probably assume that there's a good number of people that still talk about it. So that's a decision one could say was private, not in line with public opinion, but the court ruled it based on the law and the facts. So we shouldn't be so hot for this thing, dual citizenship recognition, that we allow ourselves to bargain our rights away. If the court strike this law down, nothing is going to change. Liberians who acquired a citizenship after we were driven into exile will be no different from the many Liberians that got their citizenship before that war started, that no one is talking about. We will be no different from the many Liberians that come from Africans that come from neighboring country and become naturalized citizens of Liberia and keep their birth citizenship. That's all it does. It just recognize the legal aspect and leave the political question to the political branches.
Okay. Next question. We'll take the next caller. 62105, 6105. Your name, where you calling from, and your question, comment, or concern for Councillor Jalloh. 6105.
Yeah, my name is Anthony Daisy. I'm actually calling from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Sorry for joining the line late. I was on the line with the Minister of Secretary and State Affairs with Liberian Diaspora debate, something like that. But I don't really have to listen to what Councillor Jalloh will have to say before probably I make comment or ask question. In this light, I will just make a comment. Being against the dual citizenship, I will give you my view, and I will give you, maybe just give me 1 minute. The reason why I see that dual citizenship is not good at this time for our country, number one is the complexity. First of all, for those of you who want dual citizenship, don't even know the number of Liberians. We don't know the number of people that are crossing the border every day. Somebody make that comment the other time. We do not know. So there are a lot of work to really be done. If dual citizenship passes, then that will Western it. All right? that will make it worse for us. So I want, that's my view. I'm not against it. I will repeat this. If the dual citizenship passes today, I'll be one of the most beneficiaries. Probably I'll begin citizen, some of you on the line, okay? So if you see me probably going against my own self, it's because it is not about me. Liberia is not about me. It's about Liberia. So I'm speaking in the interest of Liberia. If we have the entire Liberians online today, I will tell you we will be 2% versus 98%. Okay? They have never worked for us. And I think the dialogue should reach to the people that are living in Liberia. It shouldn't be just among ourselves. Because all the discussion, if 99% of your caller, Mr. Kumar, really favor this. Sometimes it becomes so boring because you out of 10 people that call, you have almost 9 of them seeing the same thing. You have nobody with opposite view. Then what we have is not a debate.
Yeah, but why should we agree for opposite view just for the sake of having opposite view? If we have a common problem that is affecting 99% of the Liberians living in the diaspora, why should they not speak with like minds? What's wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. But
anyway, do you have a question quickly? We got some other callers waiting with questions. So go ahead, Rob. What's your question?
All right, let me. I will not apply to ask the question, but let me just ask a quick question. To your guest. I know you favor it. If you favor dual citizenships, the question is, because most of the time they talk about it bring about development. The question is why you have to wait till dual citizenship passes before you carry development into your country. Without the dual citizenship, will you not carry development into your country? That's the question.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Zizi.
Thank you, Mr. Zizi. I would try to answer that question briefly. I know there's Brother Maya Weti is on the line. If you want to speak to the political side, of that, I will allow him to. But just how I respect, the gentleman's right to be opposed to dual citizenship, I respect another's individual right to be in favor of dual citizenship. Why I believe that dual citizenship is the official recognition of dual citizenship is right for Liberia. My lawsuit is not about dual citizenship. I don't know how the gentleman went about acquiring his Liberian citizenship. American citizenship, and that's one thing we have to be careful for. The laws in different countries are not identical, and that's one thing that is missed in this dual citizenship debate. People often say a person went and renounced his or her citizenship, they took an oath. Why that might be true for some Liberian. There are some of us who acquired citizenship by virtue of our parents being citizens of other countries, automatically by operation of law. There are Liberians who acquire citizenship in Canada, Australia, South Africa, and other places that are not required to take a renunciation oath, and Great Britain as well. So one size does not fit all. This thing here from a legal perspective have to be determined on a case-by-case basis. And if nothing else, if we will continue to let the world know that we're open for business, that Liberia is a democratic society based on the rule of law. We should all, while we may disagree with specific points, we should all respect the right of a person to get his or her day in court. His or her day in court. That's it. Doesn't guarantee any decision, but it guarantees the process of being fine. And then when a court issue its decision, it's your right as a citizen to either praise or condemn that decision. That's also part of democracy. I believe, me personally, and like probably almost all of the Liberians on the line today, they continue to support their family back home. They continue to stay involved in Liberians' activity, even though some of them are being told that they have lost citizenship. And I suspect that no matter what happens, they will continue to do that. But at the same time, there are some Liberians that don't want to live by this don't ask, don't tell thing. You can't use this as a sword and use it as a shield. If you tell someone that you don't want him or her to be a citizen of Liberia, that person might calibrate how much his or her involvement will be in Liberia. He or she might decide not to do A, B, C, and an investment in Liberia, and that would be perfectly right. But I think there are some people that would like to know that before they continue to invest in Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, if you're just joining us, I'd like to thank you and welcome you to the Liberian Diaspora Forum Weekly Talk Show. We have with us Cllr Jalloh today. He's talking about the lawsuit against the Liberian government in the matter of dual citizenship, automatic loss of citizenship in Liberia. Next week, Sunday, we will have a group of Liberians here who have saw the need to form a new political party. Yeah, new political party, believe it or not. And it's called Vision for Liberia Transformation. They will be with us next week, Sunday, same time. Brother Clarence Gono that you heard earlier, he happens to be one of them. There'll be a panel discussion telling us about why Liberia needs a new political party at this time and how is it going to be any different from all the other ones. So we do encourage you to tune in next week, Sunday. With that said, I'll take my next caller. And this one, no name, no number. That's very strange. No name, no number. It says unavailable. So unavailable, please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Cllr Jalloh. Unavailable. Hello?
Are you speaking to me here from Australia, Bobby?
Oh, Bobby. Bobby from Australia. No wonder. Welcome, Mr. Bobby. Welcome to the show.
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing great. Sir. Thank you.
Very well. Look, I would like to introduce myself again. Bobby Whitfield, the president of the Liberian communities in Australia here called FOLICA. That's the federal body. I've been following the discussions on dual citizenship, and when I received this citation that we were going to be speaking about dual citizenship, I thought sure it was exactly what's being prepared in Liberia with the current debate. But look, I would like to commend our counselor for his efforts in bringing up a challenge of the law in the first place. I think that gives us another perspective on how we go about, dealing with our law. So, Councillor, you got my full support in challenging the dual citizenship law, whether it's constitutional or not, and we hope that we can have the ears of our Supreme Court and they will be able to uphold the law of the land. So you got our full support here in Australia. And the brother who called previously with the question that he does not support dual citizenship, but he will actually benefit if he were to pass, I actually support that point myself. I think the more you unpack this dual citizenship issue, it shouldn't be something driven by emotion. We should be very level-headed when we speak about this dual citizenship issue. And hiding behind the issue of passing dual citizenship will bring enormous merits to Liberia and people are going to benefit. I don't see it that way at all. I don't think dual citizenship should be a luxury given to people. And we should be very careful how we advocate for dual citizenship. Like for some of us who travel out of Liberia as refugees, we know what happened during those situations. People travel on Liberian, applications. So you have foreigners using Liberian application traveling to other countries as Liberians. How do you, restore dual citizenship with a clause that after this amendment, all those Liberians who must have lost their citizenship is automatically restored? I recently had the Vice President of Liberia visiting our community here in Australia, and I raised this issue with him. And I think, look, we should strategize, and there should be due process, like the councillor have said. Even if dual citizenship or citizenship is going to be restored to those natural-born Liberians, it should be in a process where it is predetermined. That is, the Citizenship Restoration Bureau should be set up, and people should actually come forward with their, credential or documents that actually prove that they've been a citizen before leaving the country. Like that, we don't run the risks of, creating a whole new problem for our country in the future, because we all want this dual citizenship. It shouldn't be just open-ended, like dual citizenship is restored and that's it. No, it should be restored based on time frame. So, for example, the first 2 years when the restoration is invoked or passed, there should be 2 years period where it is suspended and reviewed again and see what's the merits. Because if you say my dual citizenship is restored, I'm not automatically going back to Liberia to build mansions or what have you. So what is the development connection to that restoration of my dual citizenship? But if I got a 2-year time frame to restore my dual citizenship, then it should be also priced. It should actually be priced. In the West where we live, in Australia here, if I got a child today, I will have to register that child to the, Bureau of registration, and I'll have to pay fees. If I want to pick up citizenship in Australia, I will have to pay on application fees. So it shouldn't just be like a luxury given to people and the country is not benefiting anything. I think if we estimate the number of Liberians out of the country today that have picked up, citizenship of other country, and we tax it $100 to $500, I think that would be really good sum of money going back into the country to develop, the country. So we shouldn't just be talking about dual citizenship and people talk about, on being unpatriotic and being, selfish and what have you. It should be something that we look at and we can use and bring about development in the country. So we are while we support dual citizenship, we are also very careful and very mindful. So I would like to speak in length with Mr. Wati. Thank God we are connected now through Facebook. We will talk this in further details.
Thank you, Mr. Whitefield. That was the voice of Mr. Bobby Whitefield. Many of you, he was once a guest on this show. He's the president of the Liberian Associations in Australia. So, Councillor Jalloh, do you have anything to add to what President Whitefield had to say?
Yes, just briefly. The president spoke, eloquently. Let me just offer another alternative to some of the things that he said. Certainly, we have to be careful that, we don't just allow anyone to claim Liberian citizenship. But I would submit that in life, almost anything that you have is subject to abuse. Okay? The speed limit where I'm at right now is 30 miles per hour. There's a lot of people that drive, and exceed 30 miles. So whether you give official recognition of dual citizenship or not, some of those people who are claiming to be Liberians who are not Liberian would probably still continue to claim that. And holding dual citizenship at that time doesn't help them because if you grant dual citizenship, official recognition, I should say, of dual citizenship, it doesn't say that everyone who has Liberian citizenship fraudulently is getting another citizenship. It simply says you recognize your right to be a Liberian and your right to acquire another citizenship. Likewise, look, the Liberian Constitution, even though if you were to ask some of us in the West to voluntarily contribute to rebuilding Liberia, provided that there are mechanisms in place, I think a good number of Liberians would do it if they knew that, the process was not going to be abused. But if you want to base that on the alien nationality law, then why ask a Liberian who is said to have lost that citizenship automatically to pay $500,000? Why not ask those that are said to have lost their citizenship by virtue of the military provision in that law of voting overseas? Why not ask them to pay the same amount of money? Why not ask them to pay? So if we're not willing to do that, if we're saying we want to address the injustice or at least concern that was created by this 1973 law, then it should be generally applicable across the board. We shouldn't just single out those Liberians that might be in the West and that have the ability to pay $500 or $1,000 to pay it, and we allow other people off the hook. I think that would set a bad precedent if we were to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll take the next caller. Sunday. 5120-5120. Could you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, your question, comment, or concern for Councillor Jalloh? 5120.
I just wanted to make a quick.
Well, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Sorry, my name is John Sunday. I just wanted to make a quick observation. This is something that Councillor Jalloh was successful in doing, in bringing the attention back to the lawsuit. The lawsuit, again, is not about dual citizenship per se. It's about due process. So I hope people get that clear. I know there's this tendency to always bring in dual citizenship, and I know it's a little difficult to divorce the two, but this is something that people will always have to be reminded of. That's basically what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Now, I think that's similar to the concern I had earlier that though Councillor Jalloh's effort at the end of the day, if he succeeds, will make dual citizenship possible, but it appears that he's really not fighting for dual citizenship directly. He's just trying to fight the law that opposes dual citizenship. Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Jalloh, any comment or go on with the questioning?
Right. Let me say this. The few of this anti-dual citizenship talk, the very few of it is this 1973 law. Okay, those who don't want you to remain a Liberian or who are saying Liberia should not recognize dual citizenship are using that law as their basis. If that law is stricken down, then this whole thing would pretty much come back in its rightful perspective. Okay, so I'm going after the few that those are opposed to you keeping your citizenship are trying to use over you. And if this law, like I said, is stricken down, then this issue will become moot to a degree.
Okay. All right. 2696-2696, your name, where you calling from, and your question for Councillor Jalloh, 2696. Hello?
Again, this is Cllr calling from Maryland.
Okay, follow-up caller. Okay. Quickly, what's your follow-up question, sir?
Well, it's actually not a question, but what I would suggest is we have a broader coalition of those that are representing the views of people interested in the dual citizenship. I think we need to have a platform where we are all together and we have these standards, these various standards that are being applied to the different classification of being a dual citizen of Liberia. We, on this side, most likely are not aware of what were being said or taken to Liberia on our behalf, because some of us have never gotten any material, whether email, Facebook, whatever the case might be, to say this is the platform where I'm going to go represent the interested parties. We've never seen anything like that. Is it possible you guys can get in touch with whatever organization that is going to Liberia to go represent us, and then you guys can get together, work together, and then let us know what you guys are actually doing for us as far as the different classifications?
Okay. Is that it? Thank you. Any comment, Councillor Jalloh?
Well, I mean, I think that's a reasonable, request. Those who are representing others, should keep them informed and keep them involved in the process.
Okay. 1837. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Councillor Jalloh. 1837.
My name. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. My name is Pasuku. I'm calling from Maryland.
Maryland. Okay. You kind of low though. Okay. Could you speak a little louder, sir?
Sure. Let me just increase the volume on this thing here.
Okay. All right. That's much better. Much better. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank the counselor for coming on the show. But I'll make a comment and then I'll ask my question.
Okay.
I think one of the callers also alluded to this issue of we having two fronts against the fight for dual citizenship with ULA and the folks from ULA, and then the counselor also in a sense, although his lawsuit is not directly about dual citizenship being awarded. But and so my thing is, when a person, and we'll go back to the issue of due process, but when you, according to what the Constitution says, that you willingly, takes on dual the nationality elsewhere outside Liberia, you essentially, consciously, and I use that word, consciously, said, I'm leaving my Liberian citizenship. Now, let me ask the counsel the question. You keep saying due process that a person must be, you use the Wallow versus Wallow case law as the basis. You keep saying a person must be awarded that right. to be heard before the court, a competent a jurisdiction. Would it then just suffice to you? Would you just be content then if all Liberians would just be afforded that opportunity where you can go before the court, and then the court lays out its merit against yours, where the court says, here's what the Constitution says. We're giving you due process today. But here's what the Constitution says, and they ask you, did you take up a U.S. citizenship? Yes. Did you go into the military? Yes. And so there's no, you have, right there, you have really no other legal defense of them stripping you or maintaining the loss of your citizenship, because it's clear that once you take up a citizenship elsewhere, and I'm a dual citizen, I'm a naturalized citizen of this country, and it's because of, I came here after during the course of the war, and what I wanted to do requires me to have that, and so I did that. I have no remorse or regrets. But I'm just saying, I think your lawsuit about this issue about due process really is just, it's just a formality, because if the justices would decide and say, yes, Mr. Jalloh is right, the Constitution does say we should give people due process, and you win the case, people will just be going to the courts for formality, as opposed to we fighting the battle of what ULA is running after with some, give and take. I think the fight should be behind what ULA is trying to do. But it has to come with some give and take, that those of us who willingly, accept the citizenship elsewhere, we should at some point come back to our senses and say, look, I think there are some positions, elected positions or even appointed positions that we should be exempted from based on our dual citizenship status. But back again, I just want you to speak on this issue of dual citizenship. Would you just be content if a person is awarded, to just go before the court and the court tells you, yes, you have the right, but this is what happened and you are out?
Sorry for interrupting you. I think if I heard the counselor right, the issue of due process is just one aspect of it, but the basis for the lawsuit has to do with the fact that the law itself, the act that was passed in 1973, he argues that act itself is illegal. So now he did mention due process in the process of trying to, that at the very least, the people should have been given due process. But the greater concern is that the law, the act was illegal. I think that's what he said. He's on the line. He can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Well, no, you're actually right, Brother Croman, to address, the brother question. I'm not going to speak for ULA, the chairman of the dual.
Councilor Jalloh, are you done? I want to see if he's done. That was his comment. He said he had a question. Are you done?
Yeah, that was my
1837. I was just trying to make clarification. Go ahead, finish your point.
Yeah, that was my question to him. As far as the dual process aspect of his lawsuit, that if the court agrees with him, just to give Liberian the opportunity to say, well, we give you the opportunity to come to court.
To be heard, yes.
Yeah, to be heard. Would that suffice then, in this fight? Because it would just then be a formality. Because the law is strict about what it says. But the issue is about due process being awarded, that you must stand before a judge or whoever, of the courts, to give you that opportunity to explain yourself why you took this and why you did that.
Okay, thank you. We got it, point. So go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. First, let me I thank the gentleman for his question. Let me begin by saying that the law that he's talking about is not in the Constitution. That is an act of the legislature that was passed in 1973. And as he is aware, the Constitution is the highest law of the land. Every act of the legislator has to comply with that law in order to be considered constitutional. I'm not going to speak for ULA, as I had stated earlier. The chairman of the Dual Citizenship Conference's committee is on the line, and he can speak to that. But I don't think I have heard ULA said anywhere that this law is constitutional. ULA have stated publicly that it believed that this law is unconstitutional and is unfair. But it is nothing stops ULA from going to the legislature to right a wrong. But this suggestion that we should just primarily or at least solely go the route ULA is going is kind of troubling. Often when leaders abdicate or fail to take on their constitutional responsibility. They'll tell you to go to the political process, which sometimes rings hollow because it was presumably the political process that caused the constitutional violation to begin with in the first place. And that's the reason why we have three branches of government. Because if we didn't have it, then we shouldn't fool ourselves. We should just say we have one branch of government. Whatever that branch says, it's the stone. It's the gospel. You can't question it. One thing, because we're also challenging this law as unconstitutional on its face. What this law says that, and the Supreme Court of Liberia have said in many instances that if a law violates the Constitution on its face, that law is unconstitutional, void from the day of its inception. So if the court were to accept that argument that we're making, that this law is unconstitutional on its face, as in repugnant to the due process clause, then this law would have been unconstitutional from the day it was enacted into law in 1973. If the court doesn't accept that argument, then the next question is whether this law accorded due process. And respectfully, if the court says the law does not accord due process before meting out punishment, then the process would not be formality. It would not be hollow, because what that does now, the court does not get involved in writing laws. Okay, it's up to the legislative process. If the court said that the law is unconstitutional based on a violation of due process, the court would not invite Liberians who were violated under this law to come to the court and explain to the court what that person did. The court's analysis would end right there. Once the law is unconstitutional, you do not concern yourself with what the alleged conduct might be, because you got to first establish that a law is constitutional before you may even get into the allegation of what this person might or might not have done. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. 5741 5741 rather 5741. Your name, where you calling from? Your question for Councilor Jalloh. 5741.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kumar. Hello, Mr. Councilor. My name is Country Boy. I'm calling from New York.
Okay.
Okay, Country Boy. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Councilor, I have two questions here. And my first question is, this question will always come up because this brother that just asked this question, and then I think there's some certain information that is speculating around, but I cannot digest that to the public. But what, apart from the personal details that you just gave us that motivated you to sue, to put in the lawsuit, what actually the means source behind this lawsuit? Number one. Number two is, the second question is, if what you just said, the statement you just made concerning the law itself that is unconstitutional, despite if that's the case, but I don't think this lawsuit is going to go forward.
Okay.
So the only thing I have to say concerning this thing is, although dual citizenship is a good issue, it's good for the country, because first of all, the Liberian government is going out to around the world to ask immigrants to come into Liberia because Liberia have a population crisis. So what's about the real Liberians, original? I mean, when I mean a real Liberian, those that were born in Liberia and they decided to take a different country national. Why should the Liberian government stop those people to regain their citizenship and to stop them to regain their citizenship, and then going around the world to ask immigrants to come to their country?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know if you want us to Councilor Jalloh.
Okay, let me. I hope I did. So if I, missed something, then he can certainly correct me. First, I thank the gentleman for his comment and his question. Look, with all due respect, from a legal perspective, see, it is perfectly okay. I believe that if a person, for the sake of argument, were to run for a political position in Liberia, it is okay for his or her opponent to say, look, this person has a citizenship from another country. This person fought in a foreign war, joined a foreign military. This person voted. I think those might be fair game, but from a legal perspective, I honestly do not care about it. I don't care about loyalty. I don't care about patriotism, because the law doesn't concern itself with that. Those are questions for the political process. Assuming if you can even legislate or pass a law telling someone how to be patriotic, those are things I believe that lies deep within us. No law can make a person patriotic per se. But my question is a fundamental one, and it should not be dismissed, because I can guarantee that I personally will be okay no matter what the decision is. But we should always be careful in Liberia that we do not destroy our constitutional foundation, because today it's those Liberian who might have foreign or Western citizenship that are the punching boys and girls now. Next year or 5 years from now, it might be another group. It might be another ethnic group. It might be a religious group or a political group. So when you start bending the law because of convenience, then you set up a system that probably led to most of us being into exile today. So I'm concerned about the constitutional aspect of this law. What motivated me, apart from the legal part, what most of you will find out tonight, I am among the group of Liberians who were forced into exile as a minor, as a child. Okay, and when I sit and just leave, take my legal hat off, there's something that is personal to me. That in spite of all the killing that took place in that country, the abuse against Liberian women and girls, a war that showed no respect for age and gender, in spite of that, we're having some of our leaders who should know better are pouring kerosene in the fire to make one group of Liberian think that because they were not fortunate to leave, that their brothers and sisters overseas are, just not them. They're not part of them. So I saw it as a challenge. You don't start a war. You don't start a war, drive people or kill people, make provisions, suspend constitutional provision for politicians to run for office, and then tell Liberians, our mother, grandparent, father, uncle, and sisters, that no, you know what, you are no longer a Liberian. And not only can we say that, but we do not have to abide by the Constitution that says that we got to give you a hearing first to determine what it is. We should be careful. Again, I keep telling you, although I'm not reviewing here, there are many Liberians who never took a naturalization oath, who never filed any paper with a foreign government to become citizen. They became citizen by operation of law. Under the laws of Liberia, even if you accept this alien nationality law as a valid law, that law has a provision that says that a person who acquires, a child that acquires the citizenship, foreign citizenship by virtue of a parent's naturalization, can keep that citizenship, but that child should enter Liberia before his or her 23rd birthday in order to continue to be, a Liberian. Who's to say that a person who have acquired a foreign citizenship by his or her parent didn't enter Liberia at the age of 23? If you don't inquire, you would not know. And who's to say, perhaps a person tried to enter Liberia on his or her 23rd birthday, but was prevented from doing that because there was an active war going on in Liberia. That's why you need a process, a neutral process, divorced from this political rhetoric, to be able to determine those and other questions.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Jalloh, let me ask this question. I know all of us know that the war forced a lot of Liberians out of Liberia into many different directions. But the act that your lawsuit seeks to kicked out, if I heard you right, was enacted back in 1973 when there wasn't a war in Liberia. So I'm just curious. I wonder what was the motivation? Why led to the enactment of such law? What brought up about it? And then the second part to that question: why now? If the law been on the book over 30 years since 1973, so why are you now concerned? Why it wasn't 5, 10, 15 years ago? Why? There was a motivation behind the law, Councilor Jalloh.
I can only speculate. Based on. Let me just make an educated guess. Before the war, before 1973, we know that there were a number of Liberians were connected that had the ability to send their wives and girlfriends overseas to give birth. When those children, assuming that they were born in a country that grants citizenship by birth, like the United States, they were citizens of America and citizens of Liberia when they went to Liberia, and no one questioned them. No one also noticed that in 1973, when the legislature were prompted to enact this law, it didn't say anything about it. Knew the lawmakers had to be aware that there were Liberians, including some of them, their girlfriends and wives were coming to America to give birth, and that their children were acquiring citizenship at birth. So if this whole thing were truly to prevent dual citizenship, why not just pass a law that's saying that, no Liberian, what about birth or naturalization, can acquire a foreign citizenship? Why not do that? Why limit it to those who were leaving? I assume it was meant to target a certain group of Liberians who during that time had the opportunity to travel outside of Liberia, who were just born in Liberia, but they came outside Liberia maybe for school, or something like that, to get their schooling. It was probably meant to ensure that they got their schooling here and they probably went back home, maybe to benefit the government, and secondly, to make sure that they didn't get citizenship. So if the aim truly was to prohibit dual citizenship, it would have been across the board, not just those who got it through naturalization, but those who got it through birth. Why now? It might be some of the leaders back home are probably legitimately concerned about competition, and they're using it as a sword right now to go after a particular group of Liberians that they think might pose some challenge to their ability to continue to govern. But on the flip side, if I'm one of those Liberians, even though I might not do that, but if I'm one of those Liberians, if I believe that a law is on a book, whether that law is constitutional or not is up to the Supreme Court to decide. But there is nothing wrong with someone trying to enforce a law against another person that he or she believes is still valid. And that's why we have courts who, the court will ultimately tell us whether this law is valid or not. So there might be some personal enviness going on. It might be, some people who feel strongly about the issue divorced from enviness, who just believe, who are fundamentally opposed to a person. But I think if the debate was covering everyone who falls within the target of that law, including those who serve in foreign military and whatnot, then you can say, okay, that person is being genuine, is being balancing his or her advocacy. But why is this question? Why is this target primarily directed towards Liberian, primarily with Western citizenship? Why is it?
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, folks, if you're just joining us, we are well over halfway into the show. We're having a great show here. If you don't know, we have Councilor Jalloh here talking about his lawsuit against the Liberian government with regard to automatic loss of dual citizenship. If you haven't had a chance to be heard, by all means, please dial *61 on your phone, *61. And also do be reminded that next week, same time, we will have a group of Liberians here who have just formed or are in the process of forming a new political party called Vision for Liberia Transformation. They will be on here next week, Sunday, same time, to tell us why Liberia needs a new political party at this time and how their party seems to be different from all the other parties we have in Liberia. I personally look forward to that. So I do encourage you to tune in next week same time so we can engage Brother Clarence Gondo and his colleagues. Let me take my next caller here, 6929. This seems like a repeat follow-up call. I'm not sure. 6929. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Councilor Jalloh.
Okay, thank you. I have three things that I want our lawyer.
Three things.
Three things that I want you to just clarify. One, what is the status of the case that you have with the Liberian government right now? And two, have you ever gone to a local court before taking an appeal to the Supreme Court? And my last question would be, what knowledge do you have as to whether the Supreme Court has the right, to either, respond to you or hear your case or not? Because certain thing in law that I heard last time, they call it right of certiorari, that the Supreme Court reserves the right to either hear a case or not. So what have you done of the three?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gondo.
Okay, thank you. Let me. I hope I remember that. First, let me address the last one first. Some might say fortunately, some might say unfortunately, but the system in Liberia is different from the system in the U.S. The system that you just talked about, the right of cert, which simply means that if you feel like if you disagree with a lower court decision, you can ask a higher court, meaning that the Supreme Court, to take the case, and in that case, the Supreme Court can exercise its discretionary power. It can decide whether they want to take it or not. That's not how it works in Liberia. Okay, there is no intermediary appeal court that you can go to. When you're done with the circuit court, you have an appeal as a matter of right directly to the Supreme Court, and the Liberian Supreme Court does not, under the current Constitution and rules of court, does not have the discretion to reject that case. It has to take it now. The court is free to decide however it wants to decide the case ultimately. And no, I did not. We did not file in the lower court because under the laws of Liberia, we were allowed to take this case directly to the Supreme Court. And let me just say there are a few cases under the law that you can take directly to the Supreme Court that you don't have to take to a lower court. If the case, if you're suing, let's say if you're suing a county in Liberia, then you can take the case directly to the Supreme Court. If you're suing an ambassador, you can take the case directly to the Supreme Court. If you're suing a minister, a government minister, for example, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Finance, or whatever, depending on how you frame the petition, you can invoke the court's original jurisdiction and bypass the process and take it directly. But even if you took the case to a circuit court, there is a new Supreme Court decision, even though there was one from 1980 against the African American who graduated from law school, and the Supreme Court said that when the circuit court sent a case up to the Supreme Court said, well, you're not prohibited from deciding constitutional issue, before you send it to us. There is a new decision in Liberia now that if your case involves constitutional issue, more than likely the lower court is going to send that up to the higher court, which is called certification. Did I answer all three of your questions?
Okay, I think you did, but Mr. Gondo, if you have any follow-up question, if your questions were not answered right, by all means, please start 6-1.
Mr. Moderator, if I may, Mr. Gondo seems to have a little bit of knowledge about the law. He does, yeah. Right. Which is good. If he does, and he's aware of what role the court are supposed to play in society, then what is the fear of having the court just answer whether this law is constitutional or not? What is the fear? What is the fear of getting an answer? Whether the court decides ultimately that petitioner in this case loses, what is the fear? What is wrong? What is wrong with having the court decide this case?
Good point. Interestingly, Mr. Gono and his colleagues will be in the hot seat next week, Sunday. But unfortunately, they will not be talking about dual citizenship. They will be talking about their new political party called Vision for Liberia Transformation. So, but Mr. Gono, if you have any response to our guest question, please dial *61 again, and I'll open up your line. We'll take the next caller here, a follow-up caller, Sunday. 5120-5120. Could you please keep your follow-up question brief, sir? 5120. Your name is Sunday. Your name is Sunday. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't have to call my name. Obviously, you've already called my name.
Sunday. Yeah. I call your name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't really think. Let me put it another way. I think Mr. Gono is rather concerned about process. His question how to do it process, and not necessarily the merit, the merits of the case. In which case, I think he'll be well served to maybe speak with the counselor in depth about some of the questions that he has, because I think they require some more information that I think he lacks. But this is just a little suggestion to you, Mr. Moderator.
Mm-hmm.
In this dual citizenship debate, one thing I'm realizing is that there are certain individuals in the diaspora who, by virtue of being here with us, are in a way using that to claim to have some amount of knowledge, about this particular issue of dual citizenship, and by expressing their opposition, not that I feel so uneasy, but I think it's important that, let me put it out there, that they organize themselves, so that we can debate them, those of us who are in favor of this thing, so that we debate them in forums, so we really know where they stand, where the issues are, what the issues really are. Because when I listen to the brother from Minnesota, for example, and I think I remember him making a similar statement on another call about a week ago on another forum, where the brother didn't seem to really know the impact on individuals who have lost Liberian citizenships, who no longer were quote unquote, Liberians. He didn't really understand what Liberian law, what impact they faced on a Liberian law. And there was something else he said that really troubled me, that in fact he felt that those making efforts at the development in Liberia were those who were on TPS, and not those who were citizens, because those on TPS, just feel they don't have anything to lose. That's why they're working hard, and not necessarily those who are citizens. And those are statements that are very, very disturbing. So I wish you would follow through on something that he said, and organize a forum where these guys, can be debated formally, so that we know where they stand on some of these issues, because it's beginning to be very troubling to hear people who are part of the diaspora who, by virtue of being here, make some very misinformed statements.
Okay.
I've had a chance I've had a chance to talk to them in a few conversations, and all of them have actually run away, pretty much from those fora. So this is just a suggestion that if you can do that, that'll be really appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you. Your point is well taken, and as a matter of fact, I have done that. The brother in question, Anthony Zeze, he debated the issue of dual citizenship many months ago here on the Liberian Diaspora Forum with another brother in Minnesota called Dash Warmer, and Mr. Anthony Zeze debated that issue here. I'm sorry that I haven't had time to put their debate audio up on YouTube yet, just as I've done with many of our previous shows. Very soon here, I'm going to put the audio up, and this one I will definitely be putting up in the next 2-3 days. Again, he's somebody who is always willing to debate the issue. So in the very near future here, we got that schedule. We got people on for next week already, but most certainly I will talk to him, and if I can get a hold of you, I see your number here, we can set up some sort of debate, maybe not just him this time. If you got other people who agree with him, like-minded people, we can set up some different panels of discussion in the debate format. I take your advice seriously, and I will invite Anthony Zeze to that issue. Thank you. We'll take our next caller, 9233. Would you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Councilor Jalloh? 9233.
Yeah, this is George Toto from Pittsburgh. I have to change phone.
You changed phone. You changed phone on me, Mr. Toto.
No, my cell phone battery is there, and I made a gathering, so I went out. But I wanted to say this when I spoke, but I didn't have the chance to say this, and the other side that went off. But what I want to say that what really troubling me is about the issue in Liberia, especially from 1973 up to now, when we were in Liberia before the war. This I think was not in the mind of us, the citizens. We should be happy, for people to come outside Liberia. They get citizenship, they go to Liberia, and some of them will work. This is a cause concern, why were they troubling me now? I don't know why now, that people begin to dig beyond, search beyond people to come up with all kinds of propaganda, to try to see whether somebody holds citizenship in this country or somebody live in this place. And also, when it happened some time ago, when in the early part of the early administration, when people that done something were appointed in government, how people went beyond there to expose them to the public. These that really trouble me, to see the society that we have. So even the lawsuit is successful in Liberia, or whether the dual citizenship is successful, if there's a guideline that we put in place, whether these things will really hold, the society that we're having right now, people thinking beyond people to expose people in so many areas. So these are not really concerned when it comes to the issue of dual citizenship or even the lawsuit in Liberia. I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, that's a valid point. Equally, Councilor Jalloh, don't you agree that's a valid point?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of damage that is being done. People are not saying they're hoping to pit one group of Liberian against another, and at the end of the day, when we're successful, we will still have to mend fences. But one thing that I do know about Liberians is that Liberians generally, if you show good leadership, they generally follow it. And those that have the ability to speak to the leaders back home, you need to start telling them to stop playing games. At certain times, they allow certain things to fester on because it might be in their political interest. Why a disproportionate amount of the burden is being placed on diaspora Liberians? You have a good number of Liberians, and we have their names, who are currently working at high level of the Liberian government. No one is bothering them, and those are the people that if this thing is not successful, stand to at least be affected by it in the immediate run. So at times people need to be reminded that it will either be all or nothing thing. We'll either all benefit from this law, or if this law is to be enforced, and let it be done generally across the board. The children of the wealthy and connected should not be exempt from it.
Okay. I will take this follow-up caller, and then we'll take just a brief 5 minutes break, and then we will, take it from there towards the end. But before I take the follow-up call, Councilor Jalloh, let me ask you again. I was in Liberia just a couple of months ago. Why are Liberians, all of us, myself included, why are Liberians so much interested in dual citizenship? If we love Liberia so much, the war is over. Things are improving, we are told. If you truly believe in the improvement of lives and situation in Liberia, why can't you just go and just give up whatever foreign citizenship you have? Because I'm told that at least the law does not oppose to that. You can give up whatever foreign citizenship that you have and then become Liberian again. If that is true, why can Liberians who dual citizenship consider that option? That's one. Two, it appears as though, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems that the target of this dual citizenship law, even though you said earlier it was about people who had the means to send their wives and girlfriends over here, but at least in the immediate term, it looks like it wouldn't become an issue if you are interested in political power. If you want to go to Liberia, live your retirement, live peacefully, and do your business, I don't think there's much to come after you. No, the 3 months I was in Liberia, in other words, I didn't see anybody coming to anybody's resident asking whether you're in Liberia, what sort of status you have. If you travel to Liberia on a foreign passport, that's on you. But they will honor Liberian passport just as they will honor, foreign passport. And to close that point, I know of a friend whose name I can't call for many reasons. We traveled to Liberia together. He does hold foreign citizenship of some European country. We happen to have met in Liberia. And he went and applied for Liberian passport. He wasn't asked, whether he's a citizen somewhere else. Yeah, he got his updated Liberian passport while he holds his foreign passport. So there you go. So even those who are arguing for their law to remain as it is, they themselves have no verification process. You can't be what you want to be. The system is still pretty much fragile. The check and balance is lacking. So, but my question is though, isn't this also an option for people to go to Liberia at the time of their choosing to say, I've had enough of it. I love Liberia more than I like more than I love the U.S. and so therefore I've come to renounce whatever other citizenship I have and live in Liberia as a Liberian. Have you ever thought about that?
I have, and that certainly an option to those who might want to exercise it. But why is it, I'll ask the question, why is it even necessary to make that quantum leap? If a Liberian doesn't have to do that, forget about what the politics says. If the Constitution supports that Liberian, that you cannot take away their citizenship automatically, or this 1973 law cannot be used to legally take away that person's citizenship, why should we coerce people, giving up foreign citizenship? If a person feels badly about that situation, they want to do that, that's fine. Let history remember them, however history want to remember them. But when it comes to issue of citizenship is the constitutional cement that holds all the other rights that we enjoy as Liberians. The TRC 30-year recommendation was about jobs. The TRC only said that certain people couldn't hold jobs. It was about jobs, and people made a big issue of it. They went to the Supreme Court, filed their challenge, and the court did not say that whatever the TRC said of those people, the court did not say it was untrue. The court didn't touch that part. The court simply says, well, you violated their due process right. The court didn't get into that. Why is it that it is becoming a bitter pill in Liberia that on the issue of citizenship, one of the most cherished rights we have, people are trying to rush this thing and sweep it under the rug because politics is saying that. The politics of the moment is saying, that, we should do it. I wouldn't advise that process for anybody to go there and become a naturalized citizen. you should be certain that you have lost your citizenship before you even consider that, because there are serious constitutional questions regarding this automatic loss of citizenship law. You're right, there are people in government that are currently benefiting from it. But if you leave the legal process, what responsible government, as far as security, any responsible government should not be comfortable with this so-called don't ask, don't tell thing. You can come here, so to speak, and you can behave yourself as good little boys and girls. But the moment you put your mouth somewhere it's not supposed to be put, then we will use this over you to tell you you're not a Liberian. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live like that.
Me neither. I don't want to live like that. I agree with that. I've said we're going to take a break, and apparently, I don't know whatever I said, all these people coming back, line up now with questions. Interestingly, most of them are just follow-up callers. So, folks, if you just keep it brief, and then we'll take a quick break so we'll allow the counselor to have a sip of water, and then we will come back and finish. But we'll take these follow-up calls before we take that short break. 1837, welcome back to the Liberian Diaspora Forum. Your follow-up question. 1837. Here, I'm on this now.
But it's hello?
Hello, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's not a follow-up question, but I just one of the callers was alluding to why are people checking behind people of what other citizenship they have. I think one of the things Councilor Jalloh is trying to do through his lawsuit, and even with ULA, is the respect of law, and that is why we can't afford to have people like your friend, like you said, who was under the table using 2 passports. I had when I was in Liberia back in November, I had a chance too to go and get another passport just to prove a point, because like you said, the system there's no system there to say who's Liberian or who's not, or even to truly, find out if I hold another citizenship outside the country. But it's the respect of the law. And that's the people who are under the table are doing a disservice. The ones who are in government, who's the president also continues to appoint to positions of trust in the government, they are doing a disservice to our to this cause. The Ellen Cochran and the Gonzos or all of these people, they're doing a disservice. So let us uphold the Constitution until we can change it, or amendments or whatever, referendums or whatever it is that it takes to change some of the languages of things that affect us, that are not in sync with contemporary issues. Let us follow that route. But we cannot afford. And when people are exposing people, it shouldn't be that people should be upset about that. It should be that we're thankful to be exposed, so that these people can come in with compliance to even show that a lot more Liberians are affected than people know, and that's what the route we should go.
Okay,
thank you. Councilor Jalloh, unless you have a follow-up, I'll take the next follow-up question.
Well, briefly, I like the fact that the gentleman is talking about the rule of law, and then every Liberian who is alleged to have lost his or her Liberian citizenship under that 1973 law has every right to continue to exercise his or her right as a Liberian citizen, has every right to apply for a passport. Because if we want to abide by the rule of law, the Constitution, the highest law of the nation, have mandated the process that the government must take before it can deprive that person of citizenship. So at this point, it remains an allegation. So why certain people might be doing it for fear of being exposed, the government itself knows that it has to comply with due process. I can't speak about the executive branch of government, but let me put it this way. Every branch of government, every high-level official took an oath to uphold the Constitution, the highest law. If the executive branch in its judgment believe that this law has serious constitutional concern, the president is allowed under the Constitution to interpret the Constitution for herself. And if she believes that a particular act of the legislative conflict with that, then she doesn't have to enforce it. So if we truly want this thing settled, let's speak up so we can either have the legislators speak on it, or we can wait until this legal process is settled.
Okay, thank you. I'll just take these 2 follow-up callers here, and then we'll almost. 9380. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Councilor Jalloh. 9380.
Honorable Kumar, hi. My name is Musa Kamara. I'm speaking from New York. Welcome to Diaspora, Honorable Jalloh. Mine is not too much. I have like two questions. One is a concern. The first question of your lawsuit, what do you actually, what are your expectations? What do you really want to achieve? And number two is much more like a concern because it's just 1% of Liberians in the diaspora are citizens. And the 99% of Liberians here require a really true legal status, most of them like on the TPS program. So what are we doing as a EULA or as an organization or some of these things to help the Liberian to change their statute? Because right, their status. Because I see a lot of Liberians, they have the opportunity, most of them have the opportunity, but 99% of them really want to go home, but they're afraid maybe that, when they go, they might not be able to come back because of the opportunity here. I don't care whatever Helen said, Liberian sweet. The opportunity here for Liberian is much more greater than the opportunity provided to us in Liberia. So what are some of these things probably in a lawsuit you could incorporate, to help the Liberian, get off the TPS program and become a legit green card holders in America?
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Kamara. Obviously, you just joined the show because the issue of the basis for the lawsuit, what's hoped to achieve, has been addressed many, many times. But I'll let Councilor Jalloh make his case. Councilor Jalloh?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, my brother. The lawsuit is seeking to uphold individual constitutional rights, which are called the fundamental rights. In America, they are called the Bill of Rights. And we're simply asking the court to uphold this long-heard principle and well-accepted principle on a Liberian law that simply says that you have to treat a person that is accused of something fairly. You have to provide certain process. You have to follow certain step before you may deprive that person of certain right. So the lawsuit is simply asking the court at the end of the day to uphold that long settled law. Next, if someone is from EULA here, they can speak to what is being done to help people on TPS. That'll be fine. But let me just put it this way. I'm aware of personally of friends, and I don't know what the percentage of Liberians are that have foreign citizenship or Liberians who have served in the foreign military. We're told that approximately 30,000 Liberians have served in the U.S. and other Western military, and they're not citizens of those countries. And all those people fall, under the law. But oftentimes here in American politics, when you go to meet with your senators and representatives, they will first find out who is from what state and who can vote in that state. And if you're eligible to vote in that state, whatever, then they will put you in a special place to go talk, to that lawmaker. So it's one of the very people that we're seeking. Some people want to beat up in Liberia, are the very people that are needed here and in other countries to be able to petition their lawmaker in those respective countries to be able to extend more benefits to their Liberian brothers and sisters who might be on these temporary protection status or DED.
Thank you, Councilor Jalloh. Mr. Sunday, would you please stay with me through the break? I promise right after our short break, I will take you next. I see you've been waiting for a while now. So let's take a few minutes break so Councilor Jalloh can have a glass of water. Thank you. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
They call me again.
You have a very chance.
I own nothing.
I want beating so God got more punishment for them. That ain't been my salary.
Mama,
I'm not Bobo.
The more competition, that's why I'm getting. But I can't tell you now how much they are competition. No slap. I slap the on their.
After every 6 years, different phases, different platforms. Some claiming to be the right one. For another year has come. Yeah. Who gonna save us? Nah. Who gonna wipe away our tears? From the east to the west, west to the north, from the north to the south, they got me again. From the air to the grind to the land, straight back to the sea, they got me again. That's also TMP, for overseas, coming with la logic, they got me again. Be careful who you call your leaders, cause these suckers, they are so evil, they got me again. They got me reap what they never sold, got me eat the food that a man they never cooked, they got me again. Got me suppressing poor, got me back to the land that is disrupting flow. Me again, with all type of strategy, calling them politics, but I said I politics. They got me to lie, got me to see, got me jetting country, jelly, elephant me. I said they got me again, with free donation, free bottle rest and then free education. They got me with money, got me with car, everything I said, I saw so people move but I know we shall know them. They can't fool us no more if they try, but I share we shall choke them. They've been doing this in rock or agent. This time we can take it, we will force their 6 for years.
Alright, thank you. I can't keep you on here forever. This is interesting. I didn't lose anybody. Usually we lose some people, tend to lose people over the break. Thank you, and once again, welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum Weekly Talk Show. We've come to finish the show. We started almost 2 hours ago now, and Councillor Jalloh is doing remarkably well in explaining the laws of Liberia, the basis for his lawsuit, and what needs to be done. So we will be here next week. As I said, we have a group of Liberians who just formed a new political party. The party is called Vision for Liberia Transformation. They have asked to be on the show next week, Sunday, same time. They'll be here to tell the Liberian people why Liberia needs a new political party and how their party will be different from all the other parties in Liberia. But that's next week. What we have now is Councillor Jalloh. This is most important. So I'll take Sunday again. He's back for, I believe, for further clarification or a follow-up question. And then shortly after that, we will take a few more questions. And then we will turn the floor over to Councillor Jalloh for his closing remark. And then we will call it a night. So, Mr. Sunday, welcome back to the show. Your clarification or follow-up question.
Yeah, I don't really want to belabor on this particular issue because I think we've moved on. But you know, this is in reference to your three suggestions, your 3 alternative routes.
Playing devil's advocate. There were 9, man. There were 9. I just playing devil's advocate. Please don't.
Yeah, I understand that.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that. I've heard it from other people as well, and I've gone to Liberia myself, and I do understand. But you know, there cannot be anything more endangering to national security than something like the third scenario you presented and that we see happening. So for those who raise national security arguments regarding dual citizenship, you know, that number 3 that we see that is happening on the ground in Liberia, where people go in, don't ask, don't tell, people still get passports in spite of their current status. You know, there cannot be anything more endangering to national security compared to a situation that is regularized, where you know the government, you know, regularizes people's status and is able to plan accordingly. And that brings me to the point where I know, again, I didn't really want to go into this dual citizenship thing because that's really not the primary concern for today. But that begs the question: why is it that we really, up to this point, have not seen a proposal from the from the executive branch of the government itself regarding dual citizenship, regarding all of these issues and the possible impact that it's having on the country, and a plan to see how we either expressly tolerate it, or we put in place a mechanism whereby the laws the laws are changed. Why is it that there is not a formal policy on the matter up to this point? I don't know, but that's something that I would have brought up when on the last show had a chance to be on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for all your input, Councilor Jalloh.
Well,
even though there was more concern about what I had to say, but I'm going to turn over to you, Councilor.
Yeah, those are those are very good questions. That Brother Sonny just asked, questions that I don't see how the political branches of government can ignore them, continue to ignore them.
Okay. I often wonder, like every time we try to, people call us, ask any of our government officials on this show, and believe me, they've asked many of them about issue of nepotism. Their single response that I remember since I've been hosting this show, they've always said that the law is not very clear about it. It doesn't define, what relative, what constitutes nepotism. So sometimes, it's baffling to me that the law is not clear about that, but it's as clear on the loss of citizenship. Isn't that troubling? Folks, if you have any more question, concern, or comment, please dial *61 on your phone. We are at the very end here. If you haven't had a chance to ask Councilor Jalloh, this is the time. There's still a very good number of you here. So, Councilor Jalloh, I'd like to ask you this question. Lawsuits are not cheap. At least here, we know that. I'm not a lawyer. You don't have to be a lawyer to know that. So I guess my question is, how are you getting your funding? What sort of support are you getting from the Liberian community? Because it does seem as though EULA is getting a whole lot of support. I'm not even sure if they are getting any financial support at all. But I've certainly heard a lot of people on board EULA campaign to pass the bill in the House to raise funds and the rest of you. But for your lawsuit, how are you doing it? How are you getting your funding? What sort of support are you getting from the Liberian community in the diaspora?
Well, we've gotten a lot of moral support, and there have been a few individuals, some of whom are on this conference tonight, who have contributed financially, and I would like to keep that confidential. EULA has also been helpful, especially when Brother Anthony Cassidy was around as well. Started back then, but there's certainly if there is certainly more that could be done, and primarily we have shouldered the burden of the lawsuit, and for anyone who wants to contribute to it, because it's like I tell people, it's like we're ordering a pizza. To be honest, even if a person doesn't contribute 5 cents, to the pizza, we'll buy the pizza ultimately. But something we were taught from our childhood. You grow up, you say, is it right that we're all going to eat this pizza? So maybe if I got 5 cents, 1 cent, I should contribute to it. So if anyone is moved in that regard to see how he or she can help towards legal fees, is not for me. I am one of the persons on it, but I also have some other lawyers who are arguing the cases. that'll be welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Well, if anyone wants to contribute, how do they contribute? I mean, where do they send their contribution, and what sort of contribution do you desire the most right now? I would imagine it's cash, but I'd like to hear that from you. If someone wanted to donate tonight, tomorrow, how would they be able to do so?
Okay. Well, I mean, we formally don't have, anything set up right now. We formally, I know ULA has something set up. That might be one way that people could contribute, and then, let ULA know that it's for the lawsuit, or people could contact me directly. Generally, in the past, I have told people to send funds if they had anything directly. I'll give the attorneys in Liberia information. Also, I can't do it all. So in that regard, if there is anyone on this line that is interested in helping us set up the means by which we can allow people to make voluntary contribution other than what that currently exists, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
And if I may, the reason why I'm doing that, there are certain things that I'm prohibited from doing directly, but third parties aren't prohibited from doing that.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. You've been very eloquent. You've been very helpful with helping us to understand the basis for the lawsuit and the trouble that we are up against, things that many of us did not even know. Now, folks, unless any of you have any more questions left, it's been over 2 hours. It's Sunday night, Monday, first day of the week, or the second day, whatever. If no other questions, concerns, or comment, I will return the floor to Councilor Jalloh so he can do a closing remark for us, and we will call it a night. So, Councilor Jalloh, I think we will proceed for that. I'd like to thank you, and I will now turn the floor over to you again to see is there anything you want to leave us with. You want us to, hold on here, Josh Toto has something to say. Let's take that quickly, and then I'll... Mr. Toto?
Yeah, thank you, moderator, and also to Councilor Jalloh. Consider the lawsuit, and also to our participants. I just want to take this time, to extend a big thanks to Councilor Jalloh, for accepting the invitation to come on the show here to explain some things on the lawsuit, and I particularly learned a lot, and also thanks to the moderator. I think this is the type of engagement that we need in our society, to educate people on this thing, because there are people out there that now understand some of the legal aspect and implication of this thing. It's a learning process for everyone all. And we extend our invitation, you accept that one. I want to take this on to say a big thank you to Councilor Jalloh and also the participants that when we put out the announcement, it began a debate on the Facebook even before the debate today, the presentation that was done today. So I just want to say thanks to Councilor Jalloh and also the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Toto. Yeah, you're certainly right about that. I almost forgot that, and thank you for reminding me. By the way, Mr. George Toto is a volunteer for the Liberian Diaspora Forum. Mr. George Toto, Brother Senior Yewula, who's not here tonight. And interestingly, Brother Asmana Randolph Jabate, who runs the Limani website, checked that website up yesterday, and I saw a very nice picture of Councilor Jalloh on the website with an announcement. And that's not the first time he's done so. Every time we've had time to announce a special guest come on our show. Now, certainly, by no means the names that I call, they're not the only people. There are a lot of people helping to spread this show. I want to thank all of you. And I'll still return the floor to Councilor Jalloh so he can leave us with a closing remark tonight. So, Councilor Jalloh, your closing remarks, sir.
Thank you, Brother Kromah. I would have to call, Big Brother Jabate to tell you that the picture he got is an older picture. I think I've gone bald since that time.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, I want to thank you. You've done a wonderful job tonight of moderating this important debate, And I also want to thank you and the other brothers at the Liberian Diaspora Forum for providing us this opportunity that we can discuss issue of national importance, issue of personal importance as well. And I also want to thank everyone for taking out of their busy schedule. We have Liberians, as you heard, as far as Australia that are on the line. I'm sure there are a few others that are here that for some other reason could not participate directly other than just listen. Wanted to thank them as well. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this lawsuit, this lawsuit is simply about getting an answer to a question that have lingered for a long time. Whether or not this 1973 automatic loss of citizenship law complies with the Liberian Constitution has nothing to do with loyalty. I'm not concerned with that. And once we get that answer, then whether the answer is yes or no, I think it would help inform the political process as we move along. I know historically, now anyone can tell me before my time if it were different, but historically, Liberians having like how you have some landmark cases in the U.S. here where disadvantaged groups, a disfavored group have gone to the court for redress. You have a lot. In Liberia, I believe, we tend to put more focus on the political process too much, that we believe that politics should solve everything. And we don't know that the awesome power that the court have, the awesome power that we have as individual, whether you're suing an individual, whether you're suing a governmental entity, to have someone who theoretically is supposed to be neutral sit and act as a referee, calling foul here and there, is an important process. So why we historically don't have instances a lot of time in our country where personal individuals certainly have challenged a law on this magnitude, this also helps improve our democracy. And whether you agree with me personally or not, I thank you for respecting my right to have that lawsuit, the questions that are in that lawsuit addressed. And I look forward to continuing this discussion perhaps in the future. Thank you, and good night to everyone.
Thank you, Councilor Jalloh. For a repeat broadcast of tonight's show, folks, if you need to listen to Councilor Jalloh's show tonight, you may dial 559-726-1299. The SIM access code 908209# will allow you to listen to a repeat broadcast of tonight's show up till Sunday, at which time a new show would have been recorded. But I'm sure before then, I'll find time to upload this audio, this show on YouTube, just as I've done with many of my past shows. This was Councilor Jalloh's first appearance on the Liberian Diaspora Forum. By no means it is the last. We will continue to follow his lawsuit, to follow his effort. And at any time there's need to bring him back on the show, we'll be honored to do so. Councilor Jalloh, I do want to thank you for your time, and I want to profoundly thank our audience. If it wasn't for whom, we would not be here. So with that said, I'd like to call it a night. You all have a wonderful night. Thank you on behalf of myself and the Liberian Diaspora Forum family. Good night.